What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams, and I am joined today by my two usual co-hosts. First of all, on my left, your right, Arrowhead Tom at the top right of the screen, which is, I just realized, a little unusual. Usually it's not Tom at the top right of the screen, but Tom is on the top right of the screen today. Yeah, how we doing, Tom?
I tell you what, I am not ready for it to be as cold as it is. I got this little sinus congestion stuff, so if my voice cracks in the middle of anything I'm saying, please forgive me. But other than that, I got this new chair from my office, and it's super comfy, and so I'm really feeling that right now. So I'm in a good mood. I'm in a good place. I would have been in a much better mood if MVS could catch a damn ball, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Yeah, we sure will. Also join us, of course, the bottom of the screen, Kyle Henning. Kyle, how are we doing today, sir?
Doing all right. Doing fine. Holiday weekend, Chiefs coming up Sunday. Watching our own fan base be absolute garbage. It's fun.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. In
you guys should really root for your own injuries on your own team. Nobody should ever accuse this fan base of doing it for other teams, because we don't root for other teams' injuries. We root for our own. Disgusting.
Yeah,
pretty crazy. But yeah, a lot been going on in Chiefs Kingdom this week. Obviously, following the loss to the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football in a thrilling defeat. Tom, kind of the same charade as the whole season has kind of been the theme. The offense really not delivering in the second half, especially, all game it was kind of iffy, but the second half it kind of really fell apart on them. But the defense did their job, of course. It was just kind of the lack of the offense that killed us once again.
Well, I'm saying it fell apart is, I think, like, it's generous, because it didn't just fall apart; it just stopped existing, right? Like it was, and this is, I don't know how many games it's been in, 3 games that they haven't scored a point, or they've scored like 3 points in the second half of the last 3 games, or something abysmal like that. And I understand there's a lot of elements to that, and these are professional athletes, and we go through they'll get it right, they'll get it this, and Andy's always going to say, it's on me, and because he's a good leader, he's a good coach, but there is, I think some of that is, there's a good part of that that's coaching, right? Like, how much are we shutting down, right? How much are we failing to adapt or getting stuck? One of the things that was notable about the Philly game was Pacheco was running really well in the first half, and then he did okay in the second, and they moved away from it. And the other thing, the turnovers and the penalties have been, I think,
pretty
when we talked about, I alluded to the drop, that MVS had and some other things, but there's been a lot of penalties, and and it felt like the first half of football was perfect. Like, could not have asked for a first half, and then we just went total Jekyll and Hyde, and looked like a different team. And it was the same old, right? Drop passes, fumbles, Jawan Taylor getting called for a couple. I think it was a pair of false starts. I think Donovan Smith got a holding. It just like
Trey Smith had one in there. It's just
very sloppy
football.
Like, one person made a mistake and it became contagious. And some of that might be a mentality, right? Like, it's one of the things that this team has always done well with Patrick Mahomes is bounce back from bad plays or bad drives. We haven't seen that as much this year, and it's been, I think, frustrating, because we've been very fortunate to see some big comebacks and some bounce backs from frustrations, even when players are struggling. Philosophically, I know Andy likes to give guys a chance, and we just haven't seen that same net positive response of, hey, I had a bad drive, bad play, I fumbled the ball, whatever. Now I come back out and make a play. We've only seen one half of that, which is the bad play and then more bad plays, or just no makeup plays.
Not much rebounding, it seems like. It's just kind of stacks on top of each other, bad play after bad play. It's crazy. It's the theme has been the offense is shooting itself in the foot over and over, and we had a couple games where it seemed like it was clicking together, and even, like I said, in the first half, it looked okay. It looked that we were moving the ball with at least some efficiency. Still had some drops and some mistakes, but I just don't understand what happens at halftime. Like, we just go in there and what's talked about, what's like, do we make changes? Are there changes being made just too much by the other team that we just don't adapt to it? I don't know the cut and dry solution. Kyle, I don't know if you have any potential ideas. Still muted.
Oh,
Your two best players can't give the ball away for free twice, and they did. And I know we can talk about the drops and the this and the that and the rhythm of the offense and everything else. Your two best players committed 2 red zone turnovers inside the 10-yard line on terrible plays. That throw was awful. Could Watson have run it more to the corner? Probably. That throw was in a bad spot. Plain simple.
Yeah.
And floated.
Oh yeah, it's definitely floated. It was just a
The
weird
best
throw.
wide receiver target on your team, your best pass catching option on your team, caught the hook route and then proceeded to get the ball punched out again this year. And then proceeded to exacerbate it by again punching the ground and potentially ruining his hands when that's the only thing we have right now for that, if with everybody else panicking about all the other things. So that's part of your problem is your two best players can't play badly and then expect a bunch of young guys to pick them up. I think coaching comes into it. They're not adjusting at half times. I think some of it has to do with Andy's stubbornness and the conversation about EB and Nagy. It's not about who's calling plays. It's who's willing to tell Andy no more often.
Yep.
And I think that's what we're seeing a little bit different right now. The other part of it is they don't have any confidence. There's that wide receiver room has no one in it that's really done it consistently at a high level ever. Not from the most experienced wide receiver in the room to the least experienced wide receiver in the room to the coach in the room. None of them have ever done it. Ever. And I'm sorry. I know we don't want to keep banging on. People don't seem to think the wide receiver coach being completely incompetent is a problem. This being a test run for a receivers coach with a bunch of unproven, underdeveloped receivers who we knew have not been developed as far, who we knew were underdeveloped. One came from a like middle of nowhere school at a different level of competition. One's from SMU. One is a reclamation project that you stole from the Giants, who's still not been on the field much and is now out again. Putting a wide receiver coach in that room that has never even played the position in college is a problem, or coached it in college is a problem. I don't care if he was your passing game coordinator last year. That is not working directly drill to drill day to day with the wide receivers all day long. And instilling confidence in these guys that they can, even if they drop one, go out and make a bunch more plays. Or if they run a wrong route, or if they, and it goes again back to your best players. Well, your 6th-year veteran in that room is getting told to keep running his corner route because he stops to look for a ball and it goes over his head and it's an incompletion when it should have been a first down, and then drops a tutty. Stuff.
Well, yeah. Are you talking about when MVS, there was the big drop, and then there was when he turned around.
The corner route, when he turns, when he's got 2 steps on the DB, and all he's supposed to do is keep running to the sideline, and Patrick puts it right where he would have been, it would have hit him right here. Granted, we know hitting him right here doesn't always mean catch, but it would have hit him right here.
Yeah, and that
just comes back to the miscommunication and just the under coaching, the lack of coaching, fundamentals,
the lack of experience in that room from front to back.
It's definitely like you're not setting up anyone for success. Like, you're not setting up a young wide receiver coach with experienced guys who kind of know what they're doing, and you're not setting up these young guys with an experienced wide receiver coach. It's like you can't have both in the same time, And
you went out and got the guy who is experienced in the offense, who's played in it for 4 years, and he broke his. I thought he broke his thumb when it happened. They said dislocated, so I guess maybe I'm hopeful it's just dislocated and not broke. I don't know which would be worse or quicker at this point.
I don't know. Either way, he's out next.
It's out 4 weeks regardless. Yeah. And like I said, I said it to start with, but I'm really tired of everybody being in such a hurry to confirm priors that whether you outright said you were rooting or wishing for the injury to happen to the player or not, your initial reaction is to run so fast with your Twitter fingers or your social media fingers to whatever site you can get your fingers on to tell everybody that you were right about how that was a bad decision or how this should have gone that. Dude, these guys, first of all, them being injured doesn't make you right. Their process you may not like. That's fine. But that doesn't make you right. Honestly, he's probably been, when on the field, the best receiver in the locker room since he got there. They haven't used him much, but when they've used him, he's been effective. And as soon as he went down with the punt returns, what happened? Everybody panicked because they thought Sky was going back to return punts.
That is the worst case scenario right there.
Watched the timeline have an absolute meltdown for 10 minutes until they realized that Kadarius was the one back there catching punts, who, by the way, is now also out, hurt. So,
yeah,
like,
there's definitely a lot of
stop the rooting for your priors and making you look like you are absolutely trashing your own team, because it's a real bad look and it's really crappy to do.
Yeah, this fan base has a decent amount of grandstanding, victory lapping over very minor decisions. And, I mean,
stupid.
That's what happens when you're a very successful franchise like the Chiefs. Minor decisions like who your wide receiver 5 is really gets amplified, in those big moments. So it is what it is. Ultimately, the positives from the Eagles game, the defense played very well once again. L'Jarius Sneed had a big interception. Chris Jones got in there a couple times. Just a very cohesive effort all game, basically, from the defense, besides that one deep ball to A.J. Brown, which, they're going to get those ones every once in a while.
Yeah, A.J. Brown's having a phenomenal season.
Crazy.
I do want to, before we go too far, I want to touch on what Kyle said just for a second, because not to circle all the way back and not to cut you off, but while we're on the subject, because we talk about the injuries, and is it frustrating as a fan? Yeah. But, we just talked about this a couple weeks ago when, McCole came back to Kansas City, and he was talking about the injuries that he had last year, and, the fact that he was in the hospital, not being able to feel his legs, and we were sitting here. I will just say this, right? And I know we do the same thing with Kadarius Toney because he's always hurt. These guys are playing at a professional level, and they're not going to miss a game check. They're not going to risk their financial future because, their tummy's hurt, or because, they've got a splinter in their finger, or, these are like legitimate injuries. These are things that most of us, if it had happened to us, we'd be pretty bad shape for a long time.
We'd be out of shape for like months.
Yeah. And on top of that, then they go and they hit the rehab. It's not like when they get hurt, they just get to go home and sit on the couch for 4 weeks and do nothing. Right.
Yeah.
They get their surgeries done. They go through their physical rehab. They're still running drills. They're still watching tape. They're still working. And so it's, and in Kyle's point of, just trying to confirm, it is bizarre sometimes. It's like, are you rooting for this team, or are you just rooting for yourself to be right?
Yep.
Because
that's about 75% of what it is anymore. It has.
Yeah.
The Chiefs have transitioned from a team where we root for the team to the team where you just want to root for your predictions. That's like 75% of the fan base at this point. It's insane to watch, and it's the newer fan base most of the time.
Yeah, I think there's also just like a lot of the Chiefs fan base and like a lot of talking heads on Chiefs Twitter, at least, that are kind of import fans. I think that's been kind of talked about a little bit, but it's like, there's just guys that are covering the team just to cover the team, and they're just, like you said, you're just trying to be right more than you're trying to be,
or just be controversial and fire out as spicy stuff as you can get.
There's a lot of that too.
And then when anything at all points back to that direction, that's immediately a confirmation of them being right. That's the
classic method of just shoot out a million takes, and if one of them's right, boom, look at you.
Yeah, then all of my takes are correct.
Yeah, then all of them. Then you have such a high hit rate. But it is kind of a I don't know what you'd call it. Some fair weather fans are definitely a fairish term, but just
it's not even really that. It's just don't be that guy. Don't be the I root for anything, including injuries and bad things for my own team, just to confirm I was right. Don't be that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just to
and we
be
got to
able to say
remember these
so.
are legitimate. Like these are just guys out there playing. Like they have families, they have people they have to support. Like they
Calling a
have
guy
emotions
injury
and
prone for
feelings.
having a lacerated spleen or whatever it was and not being able to feel his
Yeah,
legs,
it's like
and that being his only major injury in his entire career up
Yeah.
until potentially having a broken or dislocated thumb this week is a wild statement to make and is a flat out lie. I'm sorry. Calling a guy
Yeah.
injury prone for having one major injury in his career is a lie. I hope you heard me say that because you know who I'm talking to.
I mean, I personally don't, but
Oh, he does.
I'm staying off Twitter because I don't want the beef.
Twitter, I gotta tell you, Twitter has turned into quite a place the past couple weeks on Chiefs Twitter. So it's certainly interesting. But yeah, the defense. Let's just hop over to the defense.
Yeah, the defense is good.
Defense played good once again. A solid defensive performance, top to bottom. Really, like it's kind of been talked about a little bit already. But the Eagles, I don't think really did much to necessarily win that game. You
They
know,
did
I mean,
enough.
hate to
did
break it
enough
to
to
Eagles
take advantage
fans.
of the mistakes. They did what they
Yeah,
were supposed to.
it's more than often than not the Chiefs kind of beating themselves. You know, the defense had a pretty good read on the Eagles the entire game. If the Chiefs offense just capitalizes on one of those, I mean, they had like 4 or 5 3 and outs on the Eagles,
Yeah.
like turnovers. It was,
The
and the
Chiefs had
Chiefs
a chance
offense,
to be up 3 or 4 possessions based on the defense's play and did nothing
yeah.
with it.
So it's kind of just been the same
pretty
theme
brutal.
of all the losses this year, and even some of the wins. It's been like that. It's just the offense can't get it together when it matters most. The defense is the top defense in the league. Like that's
this is the game we were scared of with this defense, right?
yeah.
Like
this is
this
the
was
one
the
that was
game we
really
were
gonna test them.
we were like, all right, this is the game we were worried about. Even before Nick Bolton went down, like even when we were looking at this game earlier in the season, it's like, yeah, they're stuffing people. They're a good defense. They're not really playing a ton of crazy offenses, and they've also not really played anybody that runs the ball especially well. Well, they just did, and they just absolutely mauled them. And oh, by the way, another number 1 wide receiver got nothing and liked it.
Yeah. I don't know how much he liked it, but he got it.
Yeah, courtesy of L'Jarius Sneed once again.
And Trent McDuffie
out there.
Devontae Smith got what, 2 catches all night? Really?
Yeah, it was.
And one of them was on a safety on a change route I think a miscommunication over the top where he got loose down the right side over that on that deep ball.
Yeah, and like I said, it was a great game by the defense. It's like, Chris Jones showed up and was doing well, and
had sacks on consecutive plays, didn't he?
Yeah, 2 sacks in a row. It's pretty crazy. And I don't think we scored any points off that afterwards. So it's one of those things, you know. So that's kind of the story of the Eagles game. Any other final thoughts, closing thoughts of that game?
I was really happy with our defense. Like I said, especially with no Bolton against the run, against the defense, or against an offense like that. They didn't really let them in 3rd and short, so we didn't deal with the tush push a bunch, which is exactly how you have to play them on defense. And I thought it worked really well. Spags was like, nope, we're going to blitz you on 1st down. We're going to blitz you on 2nd down. You're not getting to 3rd and short. You're either getting a 1st down or you're not getting to 3rd and short. So
that's the way to do it.
He's continuing to be more and more multiple. And earlier this year, and I'm sure Tom's going to talk about this, and I'm probably hoping this is a nice little transition for him. Earlier this year, we talked about whether or not L'Jarius Sneed was a top 5 corner and where that kind of put this duo and what that kind of set everything up as. And I said then that I might be a little early, but I said that they were both top 5 corners and they were probably the best duo in the league. You can go ahead and take probably off of both of those sentences now.
Yeah.
They're both top 5 corners in the NFL right now, and they're playing together.
Yeah, no, they are phenomenal, and they're so interchangeable in this defense, and you could really ask either one of them to do anything you want them to. There is a strong argument to make that there needs to be a much higher priority than I think what most people have given to keeping Sneed and McDuffie together for this defense. And I will end my thought on that, because then we get into a lot of
Oh no, I'm gonna ask
offseason.
you. No, I'm gonna ask you because I know where your head went. Is this a Pace need, not Chris take? Go ahead, because I already know your stance on it. Go ahead.
You already know.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to say, Tom.
If Brett Veach called me tomorrow and said, Thomas, what should we do for the offseason? I would say, Brett, it's about time you start listening to me. I'm glad you called. Sit down. First things first, I'm going to need you to cut Sky Moore. But after that,
Yep.
no, I'm just kidding. They really need to cut MVS. But
That one I will agree with.
if
Yeah,
we're in a
after this
position,
season is
blow it all
over,
up.
that is done. There is no
Blow everything up
more.
for the wide receiver as far as I'm
There is
concerned.
no coming back from that. Not after last. I don't care. The AFC Championship game was fine and all. You have been far too inconsistent far too often. I'm very happy with the AFC Championship game performance. That's great. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. Yeah. See you later.
This is not working right now, boss.
Yeah. If you're asking me, do I want to pay a 26-year-old corner for the next year, probably around $21-22 million a year? I'm using the Trevon Diggs contract as a kind of a place for that. So 5 years, $100 million, give or take. So,
which they overpaid.
Or do I want to pay a 30-year-old Chris Jones somewhere along the line of Aaron Donald money, which is probably 22, 23 plus, which is what we think, he's looking at, or what he wants. I would also say with the way that things had been handled negotiation-wise in the past, I'm not super optimistic. And as we saw last year with Orlando Brown, like the Chiefs don't want their cap situation to be held hostage. So I would simply say, when you're at the combine, Mr. Brett, you need to look around and see who is buying and who would like a defensive tackle, who's got maybe a first-round pick that they're going to part with. And then, yes, I'm going to go talk to L'Jarius. I'm going to go talk to Willie. I'm going to go talk to probably Creed, get him done a little bit early, and just say, hey, let's keep this group of younger guys together. I love Chris Jones. That is not a statement of like whatever, but it's like the opportunity cost of keeping Chris Jones at this point is probably going to be, because he's having a good season and he's going to come back with maybe not winning all the incentives or whatever in his current contract, but he's going to come back, I think, with a similar position of, hey, I'm the best defensive tackle in the league. Here's Aaron Donald's contract. I want to be, in this realm. And I just don't know if you give that to him at this stage in his career when you have so many other young guys, right? Like, so
him not getting those incentives is still one of the most negligent behaviors I've ever seen by an agent in my life, but that's a separate.
I concur. But again, he's not getting any younger. And I just, again, unless his representation changes and, there's a little bit more of some negotiation there, willingness to come down. Yeah. So
he's only got 7.5 sacks on the year as it sits, just so we know.
Which is still,
they only gave him a half sack for somehow on Sunday. I don't know who else got half of that, but
it's still solid. And here's the thing: the Chiefs have to invest at defensive tackle regardless if Chris Jones is here or not next year. Yeah. So I mean, there's some, and this is what we're talking about before the show, and we can get into this another time or another place. But the Chiefs have some big we finally have this defense that's clicking, and they have some big decisions to make this offseason. Keeping Willie Gay, keeping Drew Tranquil, keeping, who do we,
or at least
how do we parse all this out? They're going to have cap space to work with, but they also need to figure out left tackle. They obviously need to figure out wide receiver. Again, I would go the route of what's the most I can get out of Chris Jones in a trade. And if he's really serious about being Chief for life, he's going to have to come to the table and play ball a little bit more. And I'm not asking him to do that. I would never ask any player to do that, because I understand that you have to take care of your money and you do what's best for you. It's not an ill will thing. But, again, the if you're looking at an Aaron Donald contract, his average salary is $31 million a year. So
That's
Would
pretty
I
steep.
or give 22, 21 to Snead? That's a pretty easy decision for me.
Yeah, I'm definitely in that boat as well. As far as I'd rather keep the younger core of guys together, keeping Snead, keeping Willie, and just investing in some younger guys as opposed to Chris. Like I said, like Tom said, he's had a good year and he's had a fantastic career as a Chief. I mean, he'll walk into the Ring of Honor one day, no question asked. But it does seem like he is kind of
one of these days.
yeah, definitely on the back nine of his career, and definitely. I just don't know how much more, for the price. Yeah, he's the best defensive tackle in the league right now, but I don't see that kind of maintaining the next 2 years. Who knows? Maybe he keeps it going, but it seems like he's been on a little bit of a decline. We still have some of those things, like I believe it was last game where he had just a dumb personal foul that continued the drive, and everyone was very up in arms about him. That happens like once or twice every season still, and it's just it adds up. It's kind of frustrating.
He'll give you one of those a year.
It's
one of those
it's
a year
interesting.
For the
like
offset of his play, I'll take it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Travis would give us one of the two of those a year too.
That's true.
He'd jerk off an official, or he'd throw a towel at him, or he'd.
Yeah, we've seen a lot more of that this year too. I mean, I feel like we've seen some more frustrated Kelsey than normal in the past few years. So
can't imagine why he'd be more frustrated than this year than years past.
Yeah. Who would guess? But yeah, when it comes to Chris, I think like Tom said, if he's willing to play ball a little bit better and get some better representation and actually makes a deal that's not too doesn't hurt the Chiefs too badly, I'd be down for it. But he's also still probably worth a good amount via a tag and trade, and you can use those pieces to, like Sam said, you have to invest in defensive tackle somehow. So we have the youngest defense in the league, might as well keep them young and keep with that train of thought. Because as far as the defensive wise, Brett Veach has shown to be a pretty good drafter of defensive talent. Offense, it's still TBD, but the defensive wise, I'm pretty confident in most defensive picks that we've seen from Brett Veach. So, yeah.
The thing with this, when it comes to contracts and when it comes to when we do all this stuff, and the things we have to remember about this is, and the way that you do this the right way is, you do have to pay guys. You have to pay the right guys. It's not always necessarily. It's not only always necessarily the fan base consensus right guys to pay, but you have to make sure you pay the right guys. You also have to make sure you pay the right guys for the locker room, though, because if you don't pay the right guys for that locker room, and they see, oh, well, these guys balled out and now they're just getting walking papers over and over again.
And they sign a big
free agent
instead.
The incentive for us here? They're not taking care of us here. So there's a human aspect of it as much as there is a money aspect of it, and that's the portion of this. And we can get back into the game stuff, but that's the portion that gets forgotten and gets overlooked and gets ignored a lot in a lot of these decisions. And well, how did this team get that guy, but this team couldn't get that guy for the same price? Well, there's a human element involved, not necessarily just a monetary element involved.
Yeah.
So there's more factors than that to play in. It's not just, now some guys, it's also about knowing your guys. Some guys, it's all about that check, baby. How many dollars, how many zeros? How many digits does it have in it, and when does the check show up?
Whoever's the highest bidder, I'm coming your way.
Then there's guys like, I don't know, your tight end, who could be making a lot more than he currently is, and could have been for a while now, and had no interest in it. Matter of fact, a pretty public story about, and I've told it before on this podcast, about him doing what we suggested Chris Jones do, which was fire your agents and take care of it yourself, or find new representation. He KO'd his agents and signed his own deal last time, or a couple deals ago, I think it was. He's got new agency now, and I think they helped negotiate the last one. But if I remember right, and I remember this whole story coming out 2 contracts ago, I believe it was, when they were doing that deal with Travis, the agents were convinced he needed to get more, and he told them, I'm playing here, goodbye. So, like, not everybody is the same dude. Yep. People have different things, mental homes, makeups, all that stuff makes the choosing where you do your job just like it does for you at your office or at your school or whatever that is. Those decisions, they're all human decisions. So stuff to keep in mind when you're talking about player choices and contracts and development, and when you're rooting for your priors and you shouldn't be.
Yeah, and to just loop it all back to on-field stuff and the original question kind of posed, having L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie as your cornerback duo for the next couple years, that's pretty good to have. I mean, we saw like the Legion of Boom dominate for years, in part because they just had a really good group of secondary guys, like
6 of them.
And it helps tremendously to have 2 lockdown corners that you can move around, trust with any receiver that you need. And that goes a long way with helping the pass rush, helping the young guys. Like, it helps everything.
And not only just move them around and you can put them on anybody, you can bring them from anywhere. But
they're also one of the better blitzing
one of them
corners
used to be the best blitzing quarterback in the league, and I think the other one is better than him at it now, and than he was when he was the best corner in the league at it.
That is pretty crazy.
L'Jarius was for 2 years probably the best slot blitzing corner in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And now Trent's got 4 forced fumbles, and 3 of them are off stripping quarterbacks.
I say multiple times a game they're sending him. I mean, Steve Spagnuolo just realized, like, hey, let's just start sending Trent now. Let's see how this works. Oh, it works phenomenally just as well.
He's using it almost instead of the spy. He's sending the corner instead of using the spy because nobody's getting their hands on the corner, and he's just running around keeping track of the quarterback anyway. So, like, who cares? Like, it's a wild adjustment to a spy defense. No, I'm going to spy you. It's just going to be with a blitzing corner instead.
It's actually pretty funny how Sneed and McDuffie have basically switched roles this season because, like you said, Sneed was always the slot guy. McDuffie was the outside guy. Now we've seen Sneed take a tremendous step as far as being an outside boundary cornerback, and he's been really good at that now. And now Trent's working in the slot. Yeah.
Sneed plays for Team Shut It Down on the outside. I don't. Go look at the numbers. Like we talked about it. AJ Brown is just yet another dude who got locked up.
Yeah.
Sneed's pass rate is crazy.
Like we've seen a lot of corners in the system.
Oh God, have we seen a lot of corners in the system?
Spagnuolo has been around for a minute in the NFL. I don't think he's ever deployed the tactic of letting his number one guy, shadow
trail. We talked about this for like 4 years.
But
he's never done it.
Sneed has earned that and he's talked about that with the coaching staff, like having those conversations and kind of advocating for himself. And they finally said, all right. And then they let him do it. And it's worked out really well.
Guys, AJ Brown, does anybody know his stat line from Sunday?
Not off the top of my head.
Tom?
I don't know. Was it 2 for? No, he had the big catch.
No, he did not. Devontae Smith did.
Brown?
AJ Brown had 1 catch for 8 yards on 4 targets. 1 for 8. I'm going to read you AJ Brown's previous games before 1 for 8. The game prior, he had 7 on 9 for 66 yards and a touchdown in a win over Dallas. Before that, I'm not even going to read you the rest of the stuff. I'm just going to read you the yards because you'll get the picture here. The games before that, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games prior to that, 130 yards receiving, 137 yards receiving, 131 yards receiving, 127 yards receiving, 175 yards receiving, 131 yards receiving.
Yeah, so Sneed just beat everybody about 100 yards or so.
His lowest on the season before the Chiefs game was 4 for 29 against the Vikings in September.
Okay, so just cut that in 3, and then boom, there you have Sneed.
1 for 8.
That's pretty crazy. That's some crazy numbers, and it's happened multiple times. I mean, Sneed has locked down a lot of top guys this season, a pretty consistent basis. I sure do wish Marcus Peters would have been able to play for Steve Spagnuolo, because I think we would have seen some similar
tackle.
Well, we would have. I think we would have seen some similar stuff.
Spags would have sent him to the moon. He doesn't tackle.
Listen, I'm still not over that.
I love Marcus, but he doesn't tackle.
I don't know. If you set him on a blitz, he might tackle.
I loved Marcus. I really did. I loved
I'm
him
just
while
saying,
he
I
was
would have
here.
wanted to see him.
That dude's biggest problem.
I would have wanted to see
was-
him with not Bob Sutton.
He was the first edition of Trayvon Diggs. Feast, famine. You're either getting the ball or you're getting torched.
That might have worked well, though. That might have worked well with having like Snead as the blitzer, and then you put Marcus on the outside.
Oh God, he
I'm
doesn't.
just saying,
tackle,
it would have
and
been.
I know Spags hates non-tackling corners.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if Spags would have been there a year earlier, and had Marcus there, it probably would have helped a little bit. I think it would.
I bet you Marcus's attitude would have been better with Spags in the building.
Well, yeah, because he hated Bob Sutton, so that's.
Well, I think everybody
that would have helped tremendously.
But
so yeah, that's about wrapped up for the Eagles game. We'll jump into the Raiders preview here. We've talked about a good amount of what we kind of expect the team to look like. Obviously, we've mentioned a couple of times here. There has been today, which is Saturday, the day you'll probably be listening to this. Is there a lot of Chiefs news that came out? Kadarius Toney, who was full participant all week with an ankle injury, declared out today with a ankle/hip. Which is a big blow for the wide receiver team or wide receiver group, especially when you also lose Mecole Hardman to the IR with a thumb injury. So yeah, and then we had LaMichael Pirine and Montrell Washington elevated. So the Chiefs wide receiver group versus the Raiders is going to look like MVS. You got Rashee Rice, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, and Richie James, if he's good to go.
Richie's already on the active roster, so
yeah, we'll see if they activate him. They'll probably activate him this week.
They're elevating Montrell Washington.
Yeah, and then Montrell will take over the return duties once again. Maybe Richie will have the return duties too. Who knows? But
I would assume if Montrell's activated and up from practice squad, he will be returning kicks.
We'll see. So that's
remember they were trying to ship Richie James out not all that long ago. So
Richie was more Richie was trying to get out. I think that's kind of
either way. Not great either way.
Yeah, not like he was playing super well. Although I mean,
not like he was fighting for snaps.
Circulating stats that he has like the best separation targets, even though he played like 10 snaps the 2 weeks he was here, and look at the best separation, the best catch percent.
This fan base is looking for anything. And Garrett, if I told them that you could go out there and produce, they would say sign you up. I guarantee.
I probably could too. I mean, I wouldn't drop
the first time. The first time you caught it, then well, hit it and break you in half, and then.
I've been playing pretty well at corner. Yeah. Tell him, Tom.
Yeah, you are playing decent cornerback.
Lock down. All right. Look at my stats. Google my stats. I'm the same.
That's true.
I'm the same.
We're the tallest podcast in Chiefs Kingdom and the only podcast with a NFL starting corner.
Did you guys notice that Corey shorted us a couple of inches in height when he described us online for height the other day? Apparently, we're all 6'2".
I'm 6'2". And I'm the shortest here.
I know.
Well, yeah,
so I was like, I guess I shouldn't say he shorted Tom. He shorted Garrett and I a couple of inches.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Well, now I feel bad.
Speaking of Corey, you guys still have a chance to get entered into that giveaway.
We should probably talk about that because you guys need to ask us questions. Like any of the stuff we've talked about for the last 40 minutes. Or the stuff we're going to talk about for the next.
If you have any questions and you want to get in on a giveaway.
Reason to show up. Look, Scout wants you to ask questions.
Hey.
He's coming. He
ask
says,
the questions.
You can ask questions for Scout if you'd like. If you want to know things about Scout, I'll answer questions about Scout. He'll answer
Tank's
questions.
running around here somewhere.
Hi.
Tank's
so if you want to get in on the giveaway, go over to our Twitter. You can see all the rules and regulations or whatnot, and also head over to our YouTube and leave a comment. With
you get a chance to get one of these.
Yeah, which unfortunately
and another one too.
Yeah, we unfortunately won't probably see that Rick rated on Sunday when the Chiefs face the Raiders.
Yeah, that's sad as hell. I was looking forward to that.
He is doubtful for the game, not out, but he is doubtful for the game, which basically means out. But we'll see.
The doubtful tag is never a good.
Not many people have gotten past the doubtful tag,
especially not on. We're recording this on Saturday. That's probably bad for.
So that's going to be a big loss for the Raiders.
True game time decision on that one.
Yeah, which either way, even if he did play, he'd probably be on a little bit of a pitch count. So it's
not great for
not
them
like
either
we're
way.
going to see a huge dose of that, which is a huge loss for that Raiders defense because he is a phenomenal player. Like definitely a lightning rod for that team. One of the highlights of that Raiders defense.
One of the only highlights on that team.
I was just thinking, I couldn't tell you one other player on the Raiders defense. I don't think. Cleveland Farrell's not there anymore. I don't think.
Wait. Who's the other end? Did they go get a different end, or did they ship him out? Thought they had
Who
another
is
edge.
their other end? Weird.
Oh yeah, Ngakwe is gone now because they tried that.
Let me look
Khalil's
up
not
their
there
depth chart
anymore.
here.
That's gone.
They got
they have a D tackle whose name
Tyree Wilson. They drafted
Wilson.
He's been not very good and injured though. So
hey, they have Michael Mayer. I can tell you that guy. He's on their offense though.
That's on the offense. They got old Divine Diablo on at linebacker or
you remember
Spillane.
when we really wanted him as that little Swiss Army knife in like the 5th or 6th round?
They do have Robert Spillane, who is a dog at linebacker.
I do like me Spillane, and that pregnancy announcement was pretty epic. So good on him, and congrats to him and his other half.
The only other real notable player on their defense is the guy we just talked about, Marcus Peters, who is on that team. So
he's on there still? He's still playing?
He is on his starting cornerback.
Be able to get something on him.
Yeah.
He is susceptible to some of the double moves and some of the
other
things.
As I just mentioned, if he doesn't get the ball.
Yeah. And Andy might know how to exploit some of that. Hopefully we see Andy kind of target Marcus a little bit because he kind of knows him pretty well. So, defensively wise for the Raiders, I'm not too worried about. But obviously it's just the offense once again shooting itself in the foot or not, seeing if they can wake up, get some cohesive drives together, eliminate the mistakes, eliminate the penalties.
Don't run away from the run game when it's working.
I know, stick with the run game.
There's a $500 million quarterback, and I get all that. But when you're getting 5.5 yards a rip,
might as well just do that a little more. Might want to do that a little more.
Let Pacheco have a few extra, and not just have carries. Run the carries that were working. Stop going from what was working to let's change up our whole entire run philosophy because we just feel like it on this play. Like you're dominating them on certain run calls, and then we decide to run outside zone or a toss play to the edge.
Or a dreaded jet sweep. No more jet sweeps.
I don't even care about the jet sweep.
I don't even know if we ran one last time, but
run it with the motion.
That's a whole side agenda I have. The NFL needs to eliminate jet sweeps, I think. At least the Chiefs, because we haven't had a successful jet sweep in maybe 3 years. I just hate to you guys.
That's not accurate because McCall had like 6 last year. But
it's true, Kyle. No, Kyle, trust me. Kyle, trust me. I need you to trust me on this one. The jet sweep needs to die.
What needs to die is them running it as the main option and then handing it to him. It used to be the decoy.
Mm-hmm.
They're not using it as the decoy. You have to run the jet sweep motion with a regular run play 3 or 4 times before you pull the decoy out, and they actually not decoy.
Yeah.
Like it.
You make a fair point.
They know this stuff. Andy don't by any means think Andy Reid does not know this stuff. It's just the decisions in game from play call to play call, drive to drive. It doesn't just seem to be that the wide receivers lack confidence. It seems to be that the coaching staff is lacking some confidence in them.
I would say, there's a lot of
and they're trying to force feed confidence into them, which I think is why we're seeing some of these god awful. Some of the play calling decisions that we've seen is more to force feed guys confidence, which is not working, than it is based on worrying about necessarily that play that down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're far more worried about January and December and how guys are feeling by then with their confidence levels than they are getting 3rd and 4 right this second in a game they have.
And Andy Reid has always. He's always kind of been like that, but this year it's really been like, all right, let's just throw things onto the fan and see if they stick. Basically, it's not been the most fun strategy to watch from a fan perspective, but hey, we've only lost 3 games still, so we have to be kind of mindful about this. But
and we're still in the driver's seat in the AFC, and there's still lots of positives, right? But
it is not.
The biggest
thing is
they really need to involve Rashee Rice more.
Well,
I
you're
agree.
going to get plenty of him on Sunday because they don't have any options.
Unless they just keep on throwing it to Justin Watson every snap.
They don't have another wide receiver outside of the top two.
These Raiders, I've never asked you to do one thing, but I need you to just double Justin Watson every turn, every snap.
Please.
So then they
triple
can
team him. Triple team him. So
actually just shade your whole secondary towards
if
Justin
you
Watson.
look at it, your wide receivers this week are going to be in order MVS, Watson, and Rice as your depth chart.
Yeah. So just
there's
down
nobody else that's in between those three on the depth chart. Nobody.
Sky Moore.
No, he's not.
He's
not.
He's on the depth chart, but he's beneath the depth
on that depth chart.
He's in there though.
But he's not above the.
We don't need to see him though.
Between
we don't
1
need to see
through
much
3, there's nobody between Rice and the top two guys.
Yeah,
nobody. It is MVS, Watson, and Rice.
But they rotate receivers, and that's the part that the chemistry element. Yeah. It's just you rotate the receivers, and it's like, oh, look, Rashee Rice made a really big play, and he's on the sidelines for 6 plays.
And he's off,
Theoretically, this should force them to shrink their group that they're using and how they're using them. Theoretically.
That has been
because you're now missing Tony and McCole. They're and everybody's they're doing a lot of the same things. Well, now they're both gone. So now both of them being gone, now the things that they do, now you have to have either Rice or Sky do them, and it's going to be Rice before Sky in a lot of those instances. Some of the stuff we may not want to see them do, they may give Sky, like jet sweeps. But still.
Yeah, ultimately this, and you don't, like I said, we don't want to see guys get injured, but this is something we've kind of wanted to see from the offense in general, is just narrowing down the receiving options. Now, I wouldn't say this is the most ideal, group of guys. I would have probably preferred a couple other guys in this rotation, but either way, we are getting a more refined, more managed, does not have to feed as many mouths type deal on the offense. You can kind of get some more guys, more snaps, more integration, and more comfort instead of having to take them and rotate guys every snap. So we'll see. We will see how this Chiefs offense can kind of respond, bounce back after that. I'd say it's a very embarrassing performance, especially in the second half.
Oh, they have to be embarrassed by it.
Yeah. And it was also I believe it was the most watched Monday Night Football game in like the past 20 years or something, even the most watched game period in the past 20 years. So it's, a lot of people saw the Chiefs wide receivers just shit the bed. So it's not fun. And hopefully they'll bounce back from that. So
there's nothing better than beating the Raiders to get yourself right.
Yeah. Last year we saw Travis Kelce score 4 touchdowns versus the Raiders. So maybe we'll see that again. Who knows? Maybe we'll just feed Kelce more. We'll have to see. But we don't also need a 33-year-old tight end on the field for 94% of snaps. Just saying. Defensive wise, for the Chiefs here, or offense. No, I said that right. Yeah. As far as the Chiefs defense going against this Raiders offense, not a whole lot to fear, I'd say. They got Aiden O'Connell back there at quarterback. They got Devontae Adams. They got Michael Mayer. And they still have Josh Jacobs, who is a very good running back, but not a whole lot to fear, I think. Definitely a worse team by a long shot compared to the Eagles. So if we see anywhere near as good a performance from the defense as we did last week, I don't see them really doing much for the Raiders offense. What do you guys think?
I mean, we got to make sure we're playing the run well. And I mean, I think it'll be interesting because, Antonio Pierce was the linebacker for Spagnuolo for so long in those Giants. I like Pierce as a coach. You can go back
and really like the fact that the Raiders have a coach that I like.
Yeah, that he's especially because he's actually competent. Can we bring Josh McDaniels back?
I know we never even got to deal with
a different game. I think the biggest thing is they're going to want to make it a fist fight and that kind of thing, and they're going to play, a physical game. They're going to want to run the ball and all that. And I think the Chiefs will be up for it, but especially if they're struggling on offense, the Chiefs need to make sure that they can, like we said, commit to the run. And Devontae Adams is there for the big plays. They've got some other pieces. You got to at least respect what they have, but on paper, in a lot of ways, there should be a clear advantage here, tilting towards the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about their best weapon is hampered already by a backup quarterback, and is hampered more so by L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie. Devontae Adams has had a unfun time since he got to Vegas, and I don't envision it getting any more fun this weekend. I really don't. They're bad. It's a bad matchup for Vegas's offense. It really is. And I know they have Josh Jacobs, and I know that they can try to run the ball some. They've struggled to run the ball effectively as well. They have their line is, they've got some work to do at the Raiders facilities. I think they've been living a lot on the energy of, we got rid of the guy we could not absolutely hated with a flaming passion because no one can stand that dude outside of New England, apparently. And they've done a good job with that. And Antonio Pierce has been able to coach them to 2 wins against teams that aren't good, aren't great teams, aren't supposed to be good teams. And I think that he's a better coach than people gave him credit for. So that's going to be a lot of it. But when there's eventually limitations and that energy kind of runs out, and that you don't have the coaching advantage this weekend on either side of the ball.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty fair. Last thing I'd say about the Raiders, they do have, they still have Hunter Renfrow. They got Jacoby Myers, who
they have Hunter Renfrow still. Somebody should tell the Raiders that.
Yeah. They haven't used him much, but Jacoby Myers actually might be a sneaky good performer. He's been sneaky good for them as wide receiver 3.
I forgot he was still in the league.
Yeah, he's been talked about a lot by Patriots fans.
He's been an excellent wide receiver 3 for every wide receiver 3 he's been, because he was a wide receiver 3 with the Patriots, and now he's a wide receiver 3 with the Raiders, apparently.
That's true. Yeah, the only thing I would compare it to would be Josh Palmer's performance versus us a couple weeks ago. That was like, we've seen some wide receivers 3 have some decent games versus us, but yeah, nothing too scary to worry about. Like, say, Aiden
their
O'Connell,
third or fourth option.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll lose. If they want to beat us with that guy,
it's an NFL game. You're gonna have to take you have to make them beat you with something. Somebody's got to beat you. You can't take everything away.
That's true. So, score predictions here before we get out of here. Like I said, this Thanksgiving weekend, which we apologize for having a little bit late of an episode. Just Thanksgiving plans and whatnot kind of got in the way. But I'll start it out here. I think if the Chiefs can pull themselves together on offense, this should be a pretty easy win. I don't expect a ton of numbers, but I'll maybe go out on a limb and be like 28-14. There's maybe a fair, if the Raiders can score 14, and if the Chiefs can score any points early in the second half, that's just going to be the thing to watch out for, in my opinion.
I think this looks a lot like the last several weeks, because they always do this to the Raiders. I think they're up big at half, and I think they coast in the second half again, like we do all the time with the Raiders. What was the year we scored 40 points in the second quarter and then didn't do anything for the rest of the game, or whatever it was?
Yeah,
that was a great game. I was at a Raiders bar that game, and I left at halftime because I was like, all right, guys, see you later.
Precautions? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I was like, all right, I'll be heading out now.
Until this offense tells me that they can score points, and by tells me I mean shows it, I take the under. It's 43.5. I'm taking the under. They're gonna cover probably, because it's a 10-point spread against the Raiders, and the Raiders are, but like I'm 24-10.
Yeah, that's very
maybe
likely.
21-10, and if it's 24-10, the defense probably scored a touchdown. And I'm not even joking at this point. Like, it's probably 17-10 offense with a defensive touchdown, which is vomitous to say, but that's how what this offense has been.
More than 2 touchdowns, I will be very surprised.
This offense has been nauseating, frankly, and it's not even it's stupid stuff. It's not nauseating for, oh my God, they don't know what they're doing. There's just no talent. They're just incompetent. This is absurd. It's not Chicago or the Jets. It's not Tim Boyle out there doinking dudes in the helmet and throwing pick sixes on Hail Marys. Like,
can't be as bad as Tim Boyle.
But it's basics. It's catch it before you run with it. It's use your hands and to catch the ball and not your chest. It's run the route all the way through the end of the route. It's turn your head. Like the basics. This is why I have so much frustration with the wide receiver coaching. Like I know Tom is like, why are we banging on one dude? That's why. It's the simple little. I teach this stuff to like when I coached flag football to 8-year-olds. It's type stuff. Like these are the basics, guys. And this is the NFL. I know it's
This is the
faster,
NFL.
but you can't have trouble with the little simple things and expect them to get really complicated, intricate things, because that's what Andy's offense is. If you can't
this
catch
ain't
a
no
5-yard curl, why would I expect you to be able to run a whip route and a dig across the top and expect you to do any of what I just told you and catch the ball if you did do that?
Yeah, this ain't no Missouri Valley State, you know.
Give me 24-10, and the offense, until they can show us that they can put up 30 points, I won't believe it until I see it.
Yeah. Tom, what do you got for us? This one.
I'm gonna go. I think it's to be closer than we want. I think it'll be very similar to how Kyle described, like get ahead and then coast. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say 28 to 17. We'll stick it pretty close to yours, Garrett. You said 28-14, right?
28-14, yeah.
So
it seems like it could be a two-score game.
Tom says take the over.
By
a half a point.
Well, there's a part of me that
right over right there.
27, but I just don't. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be a frustrating game, but the Chiefs will come out. I'm hoping they will anyway. It's on top.
They better.
They better. They sure better. Yeah.
They lose this one, they will be dealing with skies falling kingdom, because it will be an utterly.
Yeah.
If you lose to the Raiders, that is a nightmare situation.
The other part of that is they shouldn't have to worry about us, because it should be a problem for them in that locker room, because it's Raiders week, and I don't care if it's 1999 or 2059, it's still Raiders week.
Yeah, this is the biggest regular season game every year, basically. Even though it might not feel like that matchup wise, but this is the one you need to win.
These two games, which we're playing them now, and then we don't play them again for a few more weeks, but then we play them again here down the stretch. For all the other conversational talk about division rivals and so on and so forth and dislike and whatnot, no, this is it. This is the one.
This is the one and only, really.
the Broncos and the Chargers, the new nonsense with the Bengals and the Bills, no. This is the one. This is the two teams that they just no. Too much history, too much dislike, too much acrimonious and angry behavior between the two, too much nonsense. No. Go in there and make your statements. These are statement games. You're supposed to destroy this team. Destroy them.
Very well said. With that being said, we will get you guys out of here. Thank you all so much for tuning in and watching and listening to this one. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, The Kingdom Says. Go over there, leave a comment, asking us some questions. You can get entered into a giveaway. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Kingdom Says Pod. And we will see you guys next week on another episode of The Kingdom Says.